Hi, I'm Martin McGrath, Financial Leadership. My background is both actually as a tax and chartered accountant, as well as having a master's degree in financial planning. Some of that stuff's behind me. What we do now is we focus on all things retirement. We look after your retirement for you. That goes from looking after your super to your strategies around contributions to figuring out your tax, how much money you got to pay, all the way through to your age pension. If we need it down the track, your aged care stuff. We've gone through some really interesting times, and in terms of markets and what's happening in the world and the economy. And I want to kind of give some feedback that we've received from our clients in terms of the way we set things up. And it's about the way we approach portfolio and looking after people's money. When often they get into retirement, this is the time it's most precious to look after your money. This is effectively the last bit of money you've earned. You're not going to earn any more because you're finishing up work. Therefore, we want to make sure this money is protected. We want to make sure, importantly, it lasts you for the rest of your life into retirement. Make sure you've got your health and financial stuff sorted, and even perhaps look after your kids if we can at the end of the day. What we do at Financial Leadership is we use basically a certain methodology called a bucket approach to retirement, where we have a clear and distinct reason and pots of money as to what they're being used for. What that means is we're separating completely and transparently what you're using for cash and what we're using in shares or other investments. What that means is when the markets are down, we're not having to sell. We've just seen through a big financial crash, and it was all over the news, it was headlines, a lot of uncertainty, and it wasn't nice to go through. The market fell nearly 40% over a very short period of time, but none of our clients sold or lost any money. Why? Because they knew where their money was set up, what it was doing, why it was there. I'm sure there might have been a few sore heads or a little bit of lost sleep if they looked at the numbers. I was looking at the numbers for them to make sure it was in their best interest to keep doing what we were doing. But every time I spoke to someone, they said, that's okay. I know why it's set up. I know how it's set up. I know that this will be the best thing for me in the long run. And markets have recovered, and they're in a position now where things are ticking along really nicely. The amount of times I speak to someone and go, thank you, I had the confidence. I was talking to the mate at the pub, was I worried about my super or my retirement? And the simple answer was no. I knew Martin was looking after it. I knew we had a system in place. What it means is that when I was taking my amount per week, I wasn't selling shares. That was coming from the cash bucket. What that meant was I didn't have to sell at the bottom of the market, which often a lot of people do. What it meant is that there was all the money they had invested was invested when it went back up. They didn't take it to cash. They didn't take it out as a pension. Therefore, the amount of shares they still held, if that was 500 CommBank shares, and CommBank went from $90 to $60, they still held the amount of shares. So when they go back from $60 to $80, and ideally back to $90 in the future, they've still got the exact amount of shares. In essence, they haven't lost any money. And it's given them a great level of confidence around that. A couple of clients in particular that stand out for me that I know have been through this before. They've lost money in this before. And so I particularly reached out to them and said, how are you going? Whatever. And they're like, we're sleeping fine. We're so comfortable and confident with what we're doing. It's transparent. It gives us confidence that our super is sorted. We're not stressing about it. We're living our life. We're looking after ourselves to make sure we're enjoying our life, not stressing over our super and retirement. And that's the biggest positive feedback that we can hear. And that's why we do what we do, is to give people that confidence in retirement. We want to make sure that this amount of money lasts for you, importantly works for you, to make sure you're looked after and set up as efficient as possible. And so I won't go into detail about it, the way we set it up, but basically it's clear and distinct. I'm more than happy to talk it through with you one-on-one. There's a bit of detail we go through about how we can set it up in your super fund or what you've got going on to make sure you can get that same result. But just understand that there's definitely ways we can still get the best of both worlds. Get the growth, get the high returns, we need it. But basically have our cash and our buffer buckets, which is what we call them, basically that security guard to make sure that when the markets are down, they're standing there to make sure that we're not impacted too much. And therefore they can continue to go back up, because we know markets do that. We've got enough money in there for enough years to give us the confidence that the markets will return in that period of time before we even need to worry about what's happening over there. If that's something you want to find out more about, definitely book in, catch up, happy to have a free chat over the phone and see how that can work for you. And we can talk about how to put that in place in terms of your super, no matter what stage of retirement in. If you're approaching retirement, now's the best time to get it set up. If you're already retired, we can definitely tweak and change what you're going on to get the same result in your current setup.